Do you love made-for-TV movies? We sure do. We always have. In 30 years of friendship, we've laughed, cried, diagnosed, and obsessed over every made-for-TV movie we could get our eyes on.
Did you know that most made-for-TV movies are about amazing people who have risked their lives to change the world?
We'll be taking you through the last 60 years of some of the most powerful stories. We'll see what's changed and what's exactly the same.
We also love a nice synthesizer and a sweet satin blouse. And we think you will too.
I'm Steph.
I'm Liz.
And this is
No One Would Tell, Except Us podcast.
Hey, we're back for the No One Would Tell Except Us podcast. I'm Steph.
I'm Liz.
And today we're really excited because the movie we're going to be talking about was probably pretty formative for both of us. I think we were maybe 10 years old when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really helped prepare us for high school in a lot of ways.
So many ways.
We're talking about Death of a Cheerleader, 1994, starring Tori Spelling and Kelly Martin. We will get into how incredible they are in this film. But first, let us tell you a little bit about it if you haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so per the movie's poster, it says she would do anything to be popular, ... even kill. Who could have stabbed popular, beautiful cheerleader Stacy to death? It could have been antisocial goth girl Monica. It could have been angst-ridden Jill. Or maybe it was the plain girl nobody suspected. Dun, dun, dun. So basically, this movie follows Angela, and she's the plain girl, and she just really wants to be popular, and she decides that the way to do that is to befriend Stacy, who is popular and a total biatch. And Stacy's not having it. She tries to con her into going to Angela tries to con her into going to a party with her. Stacy's not having it when she finds out she's going with Angela and says, "You're really weird." And this just sets off Angela, and she stabs Stacy to death.
It's pretty gruesome. We can get into it.
Yes.
I really like the opening of this because there's some nice classical music with like a duck pond, and it makes you think that the movie is taking place at like a really upscale retirement home, right? Like it's kind of that community vibe.
And there's that old guy running.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh, cute.
Yeah, he's running freely. He doesn't think anything ever happens in this fantasy town called Santa Mira, California, which isn't real. And then it basically goes right into the murder scene.
Well, yeah, I noticed the classic music. It was great because it also had those like tiny moments where it became like the dun, 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 dun. So like, ooh, it looks picture perfect, but something bad is about to happen.
Yeah, there's nothing safe about this community,
No.
Ducks or no ducks. So yeah, basically right away, we see Tori Spelling, who's basically a screen goddess in these roles, let's be honest. And she's like begging a random group of strangers who are probably swingers, right, for help.
Right. She's outside their doorstep and they're like, "Hey, what do you want?"
They thought that she was another swinger showing up.
Yeah.
So it's really creepy because Kelly Martin is kind of tucked away in the bushes, and it's sort of like a shaky POV, and it just looks creepy. Like it looks like it could be in a horror film because you're like, who is this person? She says, that her friend got weird, and these people are swingers, so they're probably like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah, because she
deal.
goes to she goes to the door to like ask, I think, to use the phone to get like a ride or something, and like little Kelly, you don't see her face, but she's the shadow in the distance, and they're just like, she's like, "This my friend's weird. Where's your phone?"
Yeah, and you're like, you're weird, but that's beside the point. So basically, this guy is driving her home, and then she gets stabbed from his point of view in the front entrance. And he is like super freaked out and immediately starts following Kelly Martin. And at first I thought he was just driving away. Like I thought he was just scared and leaving.
Yeah. That was definitely an odd moment because he backs up the car really, really fast. And I was like, is he like, she's clearly hurt. He's just leaving her like to die.
Right.
But he's actually going after the, culprit's car and still leaving her to die, basically. But, like he's going to make justice out of the situation.
Right. He also like really accomplishes nothing by following.
He really accomplishes zero to nothing at all. And in that situation, I would hope I'd go to the victim versus trying to find the person that stabbed them. But maybe he thought he could be a hero. I don't know.
Maybe, he wasn't planning on any of this. He was just planning on a quiet swingers evening at home. So he did his best. So basically, then we flash back to the beginning of where this tragedy really begins. And I just want to start by saying, like, Kelly Martin's character, Angie, would have been fine if she was, like, growing up in Brooklyn. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. Like, there's nothing that should have been ridiculed or pointed out, or something that, like, would make her feel bad about herself.
Yeah.
It just seems that she's, like, in a really terrible high school environment. There's worse offenses. Like, she's but she's not fine enough, I guess.
At that high school, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So they're at an assembly, which is in the auditorium. So the cheerleaders are like dancing around on stage, which I've never seen. But that's what the school does.
Yeah. And that auditorium maybe fit 40 people max. Like,
yeah,
that was funny. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what high school looks like.
Yeah, there's like issues at that school. Yeah. So basically right away, and shout out to this principal who may be the worst principal that a school's ever had. I mean, we'll get to specifics, but basically he gives this speech that's telling all of these students that there's no reason why anybody should ever feel like they're not the best because they are the best and they're better than everyone and they have no excuse to not be the best. And this year needs to be their best. For sure. Like he comes off as like very creepy and focused on the wrong things and not focused on, actually being a school principal. Shout out because that actor is Terry O'Quinn, who for Lost fans knows, he plays John Locke and his character in Lost is way more likable than this character. But, the speech is really disturbing and Angie's just really taken with it.
She loves that speech. When he says second best is simply not good enough, I mean, it's like she became alive. It's kind of like that movie, The Secret, where they're like, just think of the bike. And then the kid's like, Grandpa. And he like has a bike. Like that's Angela's secret moment. She is all in. Like simply second best is simply not good enough. That's like her mantra. That's life.
Yeah. And so she just decides in that moment that this is her year.
Oh, yeah.
And nothing's different, but like she just decides that this is going to be her year and everything's going to change this year. And she is just going to fit in with all of the best people. So, she's watching the cheerleaders in like their wool sweaters and skirts. And that means being the best, I guess. And, I think that's what a lot of young people think even now, though. Like, obviously, cheerleaders are a huge stereotype and like revered and always very well thought of in high schools, especially in like smaller towns. So, I mean, I think that rings true even now. But I think even back then, there was probably like less to do in school and less activities. So cheerleading was really where it was at.
I mean, were you ever a cheerleader?
I was a cheerleader by default, I think. Like I was 12 or 13 and I was like, can I be the manager? And they're like, we actually need more cheerleaders.
Oh my gosh, that's right. We went to grade school together. Middle school. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about all I could remember was our basketball days. When you would drink all the water and I would get none and you go, oops, all gone.
The basketball team also, I was like, can I be the manager? And they were like, no, you need to play. So,
I don't know why we did that. That was the worst. I hated that so much.
it was like one of those moments where I literally had no idea what I was doing and like couldn't fake it at all. Like,
I scored for the other team. Like I really did. It was, but I just wanted to say before you knew me in 6th grade and 5th grade, I was a cheerleader.
Oh,
It was
excuse
at
me.
a little Lutheran school where if you tried out for anything, they had to take you. And I was so bad. Like I can't even do a cartwheel, but I was on the team.
You made it happen.
I did.
Did you feel like the best? Like you had finally become the best?
Yes. I really think I lived my best life that year. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could see why Angela or Kelly Martin really felt like that was her life calling because it really made me feel like I was the best. So
Yeah.
anyways.
It does something. It
Yeah.
does something.
It was
So she's
something.
like talking to her friend who has been in a bunch of movies. I can't recall any of them, but she does wear like a Blossom style hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to edit the yearbook. I'm going to be a cheerleader. I'm going to be a lark. And her friend is like, why? Like,
Oh, and the Larks were like a kind of almost like a, I don't know, fraternity or something or sorority like for the high school, which is so weird, but that's what it was.
yeah, it's like one of those groups that's based in service, but they're really just like exclusive and mean to everyone.
Yes.
So her friend's like, you're a really good writer. And, you know, cheerleaders are just people who think they're better than everyone. And
I know I
she's
did.
like, yeah. And then she's like, you know, Angie, you and I are just going to be us. Like, we're basically just going to be average. And Angie's like, no, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So then her friend, who's played by Marley Shelton, is like, oh, hey, Angie, because, you know, they were friends way back before she became like super beautiful and popular. And she's like, hey, come join us, you know, come join our like lunch circle in the grass. And Angie's like, yes, this is my in. Like,
Okay.
this is my opening.
So this friend that she's talking to now was an old friend from a previous school and she's popular. So Angie's like, I'm definitely going to go be by her. Now, did you know that actress? I didn't know her name. The only thing I could say is she plays the female character in Bubble Boy. Have you seen Bubble Boy?
I have.
I love that movie.
Yes. And Marley Shelton's done pretty well for herself. Like,
really?
I don't think she's ever landed like a lead, but she's definitely been in a good amount of movies.
I've only known her from Bubble Boy, and I loved that movie.
That's all you need.
I was
That's all
like,
you
Bubble
need.
Boy, $500. I'm like, I love her.
That's right. So she goes and sits with them, and they're like making fun of a substitute teacher because the teacher's short and has a name that's like hard to pronounce. So I guess that's grounds for being made fun of. And then we actually meet Monica, who's played by somebody who's probably like 37.
Yes.
And she's like the school's goth girl. Mm-hmm. And they're mean to her. They like ridicule her. And she's just like, look, like, Stacey, you know, you're just a bitch. Like, I just don't have patience for this.
They call her a witch. And she's like, I don't need a broom to fly away from you, you bitch.
Right.
What a burn.
Sick burn.
It was.
So later that day, Angie's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. I got a job at the attendance office, you know? And her friend's like, yeah, like, that's great. And she's like, you know, I'm happy for you. I guess this is like really what you want. And they leave. And then we get to go home with Angie to her house for the first time. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this house, and there's nothing wrong with this house. So
No, the house is like really nice. Like, it's, albeit maybe slightly run down compared to other houses in the neighborhood, but it's a large white, like, American looking home with a huge yard, and like her really, really old dad, like, he's wearing, okay, so this is made in the 90s. They made him wear like glasses from like the 1960s, and he's got like just I don't know if is he like a car mechanic? I'm not really too sure.
Yeah, he's like a mechanic and he's like constantly distracted with cars that he's fixing, I guess.
Yeah. And so she's just like, oh, my life. This so like you can tell Angie's so disappointed to be coming home to this really large house in a nice neighborhood. So it's just not good enough. And her,
yeah, they do this thing too where like as she goes into the house, the camera's like shaky and handheld. Like there's like a lot of unease going home.
Yes. Well, she's like, you can tell she's kind of like embarrassed of where she lives. Like it's not good enough.
Right. So they're like, come inside her world. So we go inside, her mom's praying with a timer. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But generally, that kind of thing is portrayed as being a little bit like creepy in movies. And obviously, Angie's like not into it. So that's where we first see Mom, who is Valerie Harper, who was Rhoda in Mary Tyler Moore. And I think it's safe to say that that was a lot more fun of a role. This is a way more serious role for her because she's a religious fanatic. Then we see like her vegetarian sister who's making dinner.
And the vegetarian part is important to note because it comes into play for actually the killing.
It does. And she's like, sis, what is it like to get out of here? Like, what is it like to be on your own? And the sister's like, it's fine. I mean, you're just like living basically like you are here, except you're alone all the time.
Yeah, she's such a downer.
Yeah. And then she's basically like, Angie, like your dreams are too big.
Yeah. Why are all the sisters, like the older sisters, such downers?
I know. It's like probably because I would guess they're like dissatisfied and it makes them nervous if somebody's trying to like shoot higher, but not a lot of encouragement. No. So she's like, be real, Angie.
She's always eating cucumbers too.
She is
really alarming.
Yeah. It's just kind of like a dismal, boring, uninspired home. Right? I mean, it's just like you're going to be inspired at school feeling like you're, not as good as everyone else.
Yeah.
So then Stacy and Angie are working together in the attendance office. And there's a football player who's like skipping class and he like needs an excuse. So Stacy's like, Angie, you're a good writer. Could you write him a note? And Angie's like, I don't know. I don't really want to get in trouble. But of course she does it because,
she wants to be popular.
She wants to be cool. Yeah, she wants to be cool. So then Stacy's talking about Monica, the goth girl, again, randomly. And, this comes to be a theme. It's like I started thinking Monica's actually the most popular girl in school. Because none of them can stop talking about her.
She may be the mom of Stacy at this point, though. She looks like she's 40. Like, I wrote that in my notes. I'm like, she definitely has a kid or two at home. Like, how is she in high school? That was terrible casting. I'm sorry.
It's like she couldn't get into the GED program at night, so she had to go to this high school to finish her degree.
Or they're just like, okay, to make her look super unpopular, make her goth and really old. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, but okay.
But again, if she was living in Brooklyn, she'd be fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. Like, she's fine, but she just happens to be there, and it's like not okay. It's not her bag.
Yeah.
So then Mr. Sykes or Sachs, the principal,
he's such a perv.
He's such a perv. He's like, how's the prettiest office assistant to Stacy?
Yeah, she wants to be Mr. Sachs's delight.
That's right.
She wants the perv delight award.
Then we find out there's a big ski trip coming up with school.
Yeah, and it costs $75, which in 1994, that's probably kind of expensive.
Well, I think the trip was just $75, and then she had to buy like the clothes.
All her equipment and her like outfits, and so she's just like, I'm just gonna get jobs, babysitting and doing like normal stuff that you would expect a teenage girl to do. But then, can we talk about why is she professionally house painting?
I saw she's like repainting a house. Like, she's scraping the paint off of a house.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of a lot. Like,
It's a lot of work for a ski trip. I mean,
teenage kids do that now because I need a house paint. And what's the going rate? I mean,
yeah. I mean, she would have been like the #1 tasker on TaskRabbit
maybe
if they had
because
that
she
back
lives
then.
in such a big rundown house, she learned how to paint it.
That's right. She's
Bit by
like the
bit.
handyman for her house.
Yeah. But what
then-
was minimum wage in 1994? Like I have to look
That's a
that
good
up.
question.
Like $3 or something.
Probably
$4?
around $3.
Yeah.
So while she's doing this, at the same time, she like hears in church how she should be meek and like how all the poor people should get all the credit in life. And it's a really big juxtaposition between what the principal told her in school. So it's kind of like, who do you listen to, you know?
Yeah.
And she listens to the principal. So she finishes painting the house and then she goes and they're looking at ski clothes, which are like insanely expensive. So she has to end up like renting stuff.
And she goes to like a thrift store, I think, and finds an outfit. And to be honest with you, I liked her outfit more than the expensive ones that the girls later wore.
I agree. I mean, it's the most classic for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's neutral and it holds up.
It looks like a Patagonia or whatever I hope you say it. I'm like, that's a nice looking outfit.
I'm like, you look fine. She's like, I look like a pear. It's like, I don't know.
It was like beige with a red collar. Like it was totally appropriate. She could wear it now. The other girls were wearing, I mean, I guess it was the early 90s, but like teal, crazy purple. Like I was like, that's not rewearable. Like
they
come
were
on.
wearing like Barbie ski clothes, essentially.
And can we also note that Monica is going on the skiing trip? Goth 40-year-old is like, I need to go ski. Yeah, her parents make her go, but like,
yeah, they're like, she's not going to be into darkness anymore if we make her go skiing with her schoolmates who are horrible to her.
that'll be her delight. Yeah. I don't know.
It's just, yeah, it's bad news. It's like it's a bad idea. So then Angie's mom is like cleaning her face with spit, you know, when they get to the drop off for the ski trip. And it's just kind of like, this is probably going on like her entire life. Like, it's the kind of thing where, you know, your parents are well-meaning, but they do you no favors in terms of like not completely humiliating you. So you get the idea that that's probably like how they've always been.
Yeah.
With her. So then they get to the ski resort, and then later that night, because they're obsessed, they're like talking about Monica again. They get her journal and start reading it out loud. And Angie's like,
Stacy's reading out loud.
Yes,
and then
right.
like Kelly Martin's character Angie is kind of like, I don't know, that's not nice, but okay, fine. And then she's reading it out loud, and then Monica like comes out of the shower still wearing goth makeup. Good job cleaning.
She forgot her eye makeup remover that trip.
She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, probably putting something into your 401k. Like, you're 40, but okay.
Right. Well, and then before that, they're like, what are you, Angie, her guardian angel?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, you don't want us to be mean to her? Ooh. Yeah, the burns in this movie were, I can't believe they were allowed to say the word bitch. Like, that must have been kind of controversial.
Yeah. They're not very good at making fun of people. Like, they don't really deliver.
No.
At all.
No.
So, Monica's like, I'm going to kill you, Stacy, which is like, you know, the first indication that like somebody wants Stacy dead. And Angie's like, come on, like calm down. No, you don't. And then Monica's like, you're a wannabe. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty mean.
She's not accepted by the popular people. She's not accepted by the 40-year-old goth. It's just, it's bad news for Angela.
Yeah, she just doesn't really fit in anywhere except for like her friend that's like, look, just be average with me. It's okay.
Who's not? Is she on the skiing trip?
No, she is like, no, thank you.
Yeah. And,
you know,
I'll have a note about her later because come to find out, Blossom, who seems like her friend, I'm calling her Blossom because of the hat, but her friend who seems like the most normal is honestly like a closet alcoholic.
Yeah, she is. And, you know,
but
she didn't go
on
on the ski trip because she's probably like $75 would last me 5 years. You know, like I'm not spending it on the ski trip.
I need a ton of booze with that.
That's right.
Like that's what she's spending her money on. But
Which, I don't think is the worst choice given what they all do.
that's true.
So, okay. So then they make fun of her jacket, and then she doesn't even get to go skiing.
Oh, yeah. So they make fun of Angie's cool, like, normal-looking beige red-collar jacket when they're wearing, like, teal and electric purple. And it's, like, a jacket that cinches at the waist. It's just awful. But I guess that was popular then. I mean...
Yeah, it's what you did.
Yeah.
And it's like, the pear jacket is not welcome.
No, but it looked the best.
It looked the best, but she doesn't get to go skiing. So it's like the whole trip is like a waste. And Stacy's like mad at her now. So, things... That was not a good thing to spend the house painting money on.
No. And she's just like... wants to kind of be Angela's friend and kind of like go by her side when Stacy's making fun of her, but she's also like doesn't, because she's like, I want to be popular too. So you have that sort of like relationship also going on in the film, which is important to note because later on Bubble Boy has some remorse about how she treated Angela.
Yeah, and it's that part I think is really realistic because I think a lot of people can relate to like being that age and like having a friend and not wanting to like necessarily sacrifice yourself or fall on the sword for them. Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of people are so unforgiving and, brutal. So.
And you're just trying to fit in. I mean, it's really hard. Like if you've been accepted by a popular girl, like I remember like when I was really young, I was friends with like I guess popular in third grade, but okay. But she was like super mean. And I just remember like she'd be mean to people. And in my heart, I was like, I should stand up for them. But you're scared to because you don't want to get made fun of.
She has to stay in the chateau all day. And she, just kind of has to like think about how now Stacy's like super mad at her for trying to stick up for Monica, which was a waste because Monica's like mean to her too.
Yeah. So then they're back in the office, and Mr. Sachs hits on Stacy again, which I had to note. Mr. Sachs, he hits on Stacy again. He
says you're exactly who you want to look at dancing around.
Yeah, because to Stacy, which is Tori Spelling's character, the popular one, he's like, you're exactly who I want to see dancing around. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so disgusting. And then Angie says she's going to try out for cheerleading, and he like scoffs.
Yeah,
he's just like,
oh, it's like,
okay,
great. First, can we talk about how the family has like a cathedral size Last Supper painting hanging in their dining room?
I mean,
and again, it's like they're eating with the priest, right, from their church.
Yeah.
And it's just like really like dismal and depressing.
Well, their meal, I mean, it was just like penne noodles with like a little bit of sauce. I guess like maybe broccoli. That's to show how poor they are in their eyes. Like, we can't afford a meatball. Like, I don't know.
I don't even think they're poor. I just think they're very not. Like frugal. Like, yeah. And whatever they are, it's just not conducive to this high school environment.
Maybe they're all vegetarians. Because like that was noted in the film. Like, so she's like, eat your vegetables, Angie. Like, I think at that dinner they were like saying that. Like her older sister says that. So I wonder maybe they were just like vegetarians, and Angie was just like, vegetarians are so uncool. Like, give me meat. I need meat.
Like she's like, I need iron, because I'm depressed.
Maybe that's why she went psychotic. Maybe she just had an iron deficiency all along. Something to look into. I don't know.
It's something to look into for sure. Let's reopen the case. So then she is a lark, and there's like a hazing process.
Oh, that hazing process. I was like, what is happening here? Like, they're sticking mayonnaise in each other's hair, which I'm like, okay. And then they're driving, and everyone's like hanging out of the car with mayo in their hair, which, by the way, one of Stacy's best friends is the girl who played Libby Chelsler in the Sabrina 90s sitcom, and I loved that show. But so every time I saw her, I'm like, Bubble Boy and Libby, this is great. But
you're like, this is some good filmmaking.
This is good filmmaking, in my opinion, because I have all those on my Amazon Prime list. But they're like, so how they haze too is they're like, go knock on, like when we're in the car and we're at a stop, like knock on a random person's door and like tell them that you have to kiss them. And so like, of course, like the popular girls get like, I guess like good looking dads in their opinion that they get to kiss, which who's rolling their window and being like, yeah, give me some. They have mayo in their hair. Like, ew.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And then they give Angie, an old man, who won't kiss her.
Yeah, he's like, get away from me.
And she's like, this is like a devastating blow. Like, she wants to tongue him. She wants to prove that she is a lark. And she's like, I will dance for you. But the fact that you're rejecting me is just sending me into a tailspin.
She's like, I want my first kiss, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, Stacy makes a face like, well, duh, she's such a loser, you know?
Not like, ew, we asked you to make out with a 70-year-old man. You're the loser.
Right.
So weird.
So then we start the transition of Angie not wanting to be friends with Stacy. She like wants to become Stacy.
Yeah.
Like Stacy is like the epitome of being the best at everything. Mm-hmm. And her sister is like, look, like try to accept yourself, you know, for who you are. And Angie's like, no way. I'm doing that.
I suck. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Right. So then they're like, are in class and like she writes this really, you know, poignant poem. And, you know, the jock's like making fun of her. And
Stacy's making fun of her.
Stacy's making fun of her. And then the teacher's like, oh, yeah, Jack, let's hear your poem. And his poem is not bad. Like, it's actually pretty decent on the fly about the beaver. And then the teacher's like, you know, get the hell out of here. You know, like, you're done. Leave. So then Stacy reads her poem that she wrote about Monica because she's obsessed with Monica.
Yeah, they're definitely at this point. They are super obsessed with the goth mom. Like, I don't know. There's a connection going on between her and Stacy. Maybe that is her real mom. I don't know.
Or maybe Stacy's like in love with her. I don't know. Yeah. She's obsessed with her.
There's something magical going on behind the scenes here.
So the poem's like blah, 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 like broom, you know, like witch, whatever. Mm-hmm. And Monica's like, I'm going to kill you, you know, but she doesn't get sent to the principal's office, but the jock who wrote the poem about the beaver does. So that was odd to me.
Yeah.
And then isn't there like an ex-supermodel running the cheerleading auditions?
So now she's a lark. So now she needs to check. Now she's going on to the cheerleading part of it.
And it's brutal. And you know what? I can relate because I've had plenty of auditions that I had like no business being part of. And like, actually one of them might have been 2 summers ago for community theater. Seriously. Yeah, it was like, I'm going to do this. I can do this. And then as soon as it was like, you know, there were like actual dancers there with like their grippy shoes, like their dance shoes. I was like, oh, no, this was for fun. Like, I can't learn a real dance. I get it. I felt what Angie was feeling because she goes like through the routine and the coach is like, that was really good, but like totally wrong. Stacy, get up here, you know?
Yeah, Stacy, you're the prize. Like, you're the best cheerleader. Show her how it's done.
Right. And then Stacy, I guess, does it perfectly, but it still makes no sense, like rhythmically. Like,
no,
it makes no sense.
No, it was a terrible routine.
Yeah. Like, I don't know who could do that well.
No.
So then, yeah, you're right. They like post up all the lists, you know, because there was no email or whatever. So they just posted everything so everyone
yearbook
could see.
Staff.
Yeah.
So now she's like, okay, I don't know how cheerleading went, but I had to have made yearbook because I'm such a good writer. Like, I write all those excuses for the jocks that are late. Like, surely I'm in. And she checks the list, and her friend Blossom Hat is like, probably just got off a bender that we don't know about. And she's like, you made it, right? And she's like, no, I didn't. And she's just like, it's okay. And she's like, she's just like, I'm a loser. Like, basically, I'm a loser.
Yeah, she's like crying in the bathroom, and it's like her friend's crying at this point to lift her spirits.
Bathroom.
And I think she's
talk
gone.
About that toilet seat?
Yeah,
like, okay, there's like poopy on it. Like, I was like, that could have totally been wiped for the shot. Like, I know high school bathrooms are gross, but that's unnecessary. That's just bad working conditions.
Yeah, there's really, like low budget production, and then there's like unacceptable,
Yeah. Like who
low
just like
budget.
obliterates the toilet and then they're like, take a shot. This is great.
That's right.
It's
That's
just,
right.
it was too much. I didn't like that.
No, I don't generally like to see that either.
No. So she's like crying in that dirty public bathroom. And then her friend's just like, see ya.
Yeah, her friend's like, well, I tried. And
Yeah,
then
I tried my best.
her sister comes in like a, beater car, because like every car they have is a beater car.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so this is where, her sister is like cutting a cucumber, like she's cutting it straight up with a paring knife.
The car.
In the car.
Which you don't need to cut a cucumber. You can bite it. It's like a pickle. I mean, like, this is so weird to me.
It's so weird. But like I told you, like this is long before like Stanley Cup days. So I'm sure,
But it's like a steak knife too. Like you don't have a butter knife or like something.
No, you don't have a cup tray. But then again, they wouldn't have bought a Stanley Cup ever. Like that family would not have done that.
Oh, no. They'd have the dupe of the dupe. Like they'd be like Amazon's dupe. Like doopity doo,
Right.
no way. Mm-mm.
No. So it's like she's doing that in the car, and it's like, oh, okay,
This
let's
big,
just
fat
add
knife.
to. Right. And Angie's like, I'm literally never going to fit in. And it's like, you're not.
Not with that family. Okay, but like, could you imagine driving by a car and there's just someone driving with a giant steak knife cutting a cucumber?
No, I mean, I've seen people like eat bowls of cereal in their car while they're driving.
Yeah, that's true.
But not a big knife.
Has anyone ever done that? You should write us, because if you have, I want to know how that went.
Please write us. If you like literally prepared a salad in your car,
Yes.
please write to us.
Is it like a different experience? I just want to know. Anyways.
So then after all this, Angie's like, you know what? I'm F it. I'm getting wasted.
Oh,
I'm getting wasted.
yeah. Blossom's all in. I don't even know her name, but she's like, let me come over. Like she already has the booze. They're getting trashed, which, I mean, I get it, like kids drink and stuff like that, but it just seems so out of character because the whole film, it seems like she's coming from kind of like a very like religious home and she's trying to be like the good kid, and like there's no inkling that she ever drank before. I just can't imagine myself never drinking and then just being like, I'm going to get so trashed.
Yeah.
But maybe that is how you do it. I don't know. I didn't really drink.
Yeah, I guess I really didn't either. And I think at that point, like Angie's just like so
Upset.
desperate and
Yeah.
upset. And she's just like, what else is there to do? And it's like, I honestly don't know.
Did she already find out that she hadn't made? No, that comes later. I was going to say cheerleading. They have like a whole assembly for the announcement of cheerleaders, which is so weird. But
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And so her lush friend is named Jill, just so you know.
Jill. Oh, Jilly Bean.
So Jill's like, hey, you know what? Like, forget everything. Like, there's a party. And Angie's immediately like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. I'll invite Stacy to the party. And Jill's like, what? That's not why I'm telling you about this party. So then there's like, a ruse, like a ruse to tell Stacy's mom that there's like a special dinner for the Larks and that Stacy should be ready by 9 p.m. And the mom's like, oh, yes, of course. And what should she wear? Because that's like all that matters. So the mom.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be the perfect way to finally win Stacy, obviously. So then Angie's driving with her mom to babysit.
Yeah, because that's how she's going to trick her and giving her the car. Because she knows her
Right.
mom is not going to let her go to a party at night, like, a high school party at night. So Angie's idea is she's going to have her mom drive her to a house that she's babysitting for. And then she's like, get out of the car, Mom, basically. And her, like, it's
like,
pitch black out, walk home. And her mom's like, why? And she's like, well, Mom, if something happens, I need to have a car so I
Right.
can like get away or drive somewhere, go to the hospital, wherever I need to do. Like, I'm not going to have a car. I'd feel so much safer if I had a car. And her mom's just kind of not buying it. But then she's like, come on, Mom, please. And finally, her
Right.
mom's just like, okay, I mean, if it makes you feel safer. So she wants to feel safer and then sends her mom home in the dark walking. Like, if Elise, my daughter, was like, Mom, get out, leave me the car and walk home, I'd be like, are you out of your mind? You call me when you're done, I'll come pick you up. Like, how does that not make sense?
Well, if you even have that luxury, like, I'm pretty sure my daughter would just be like sneaking out. But yeah,
True.
You do what you can. But what was interesting to me is that, like, this mom is like literally afraid of everything.
Yeah.
And this was like the worst judgment and decision ever. Like, in a way, it's kind of like the mom should be scared of everything because, look at what happens. So yeah, the mom's like, well, whatever. I guess I'll just like clutch my purse to my chest and walk home in the dark.
And then not even waiting for her mom to like turn the corner, Angela's in the car. I was like, girl, do you know how this works? Like, if your mom sees you rolling down the street, she's not an idiot. She'll know it's their car. Like, it was just too quick.
Yeah, it was ill planned for sure. So then Angie gets to drive to Stacy's house and she's like blasting the tunes. Like, she's like, this is it.
And like take a shot of the knife. Yeah. There's like a glint. Like, you see a silver glint. And you're like, oh, the knife, the cucumber knife. Right. It's still in the car.
That's right. It's like, oops, somebody left that there.
Who does that?
So then, Stacy like is immediately disappointed to see Angie, and she's like, what is going on? Like, this car is like a piece of shit. What are you doing here?
And Angie's like, I know.
She's like, oh, it's just like my dad like fixes cars.
Yeah. Please don't sit on this giant butcher knife next to you.
That's right. So it's like, if you were picking up the most popular girl ever and you were so anxious and high strung as it was, and she's always mean to you every time she sees you, wouldn't you check for like vegetables or a knife in the car? Like, she's going to say something. Like, she's going to make fun of you.
At this point, she probably waved to her mom down the street. I mean, she's just clearly not thinking. She's just kind of like, all action, let's go. I got to get popular tonight.
Right.
Like, she's just too excited to see Stacy.
She's too excited. So then Stacy starts like smoking weed in the car.
Outside of the church, which I don't know why they parked at the church, but they did.
Yeah. And, Angie's like, OMG, like, what?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? And then she's just basically like, I don't want to go to the party with you, Angela. Like, and Angela, like, pours out her heart. She's like, but I love you, Stacey. I think you're so wonderful and you're so popular. And she's just, like, totally telling her all her compliments, how much she thinks of her, like, all of these things. And Stacey is just like, you're weird.
Yeah, she's like, you're a huge weirdo. And then she's like, why don't you call Monica? Which, again, ultimate burn.
Secretly, though, Stacy, that's like her lover. She loves Monica.
Right. Like, Stacy's like, can you find out where Monica is for me?
Please call her. I just really want to see her bad.
Yeah. So then
Angie starts getting into her head because, like, Stacy leaves the car and she's just like, weirdo, weirdo, weirdo. Like, it's like,
it's like an homage to the Hitchcock Psycho scene where Janet Leigh's like hearing what everyone is saying about her and how Stacy's gonna like retell the story to everybody, and like everybody's gonna hate her more and more and more. They're making fun of her and she just can't take anymore.
Oh my gosh, I wrote in my notes. I was just thinking this. Angie only has her permit because they make that known in the film. Because her mom was also like, Angie, you only have your permit. And when Stacy leaves to go like knock on someone's door to like get a ride home or call somebody, whatever it was, she's like now like a freaking like getaway driver. Like she's like, like it was like perfect, amazing, like stunt level driving. I'm like, permit, get her in the films. Like she's good.
Yeah, like she's like an FBI precision driver.
She's ready to kill, and it's on. She's ready.
It's on. She's like, I'm gonna take this paring knife and I'm gonna get rid of Stacy once and for all.
She's just like, weirdo, schmeardo, you're dead. Like that was the ultimate blow. And that slow-mo stabbing scene, it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty raw. And then, the guy's following her and she's like, oh, oops, like,
Okay.
whoops.
Yeah. So Stacy, like we said earlier, she knocks on the door. She's like, I need a ride home. My friend's acting weird. Angie's in the background, like hiding like scarecrow, like, I'm going to get you. And then like the guy, the neighbor, I guess, the swinger, he drives Stacy home because it's clearly a really dangerous neighborhood. And once she gets out to go to her front door, Angie just starts stabbing her, and then the swinger's like, I'm gonna follow. Like once Angie's done, she runs to the car and with the knife and drives away, and the swinger guy follows her but somehow loses her trail because Angie is just really amazing at getting away. It's
special agent Angie.
Yeah, she's on the loose.
Yeah, and like then it's like, Stacy's like horrible families like driving back from like Little League or something.
Oh yeah.
And like the parents of like the popular kids are like always like the worst. Like they're totally placid. Like they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
Like they just are all like white teeth. Like they're just so out of it.
Yes.
So he's like, that was a great Little League game or whatever. Yeah. And then they see the sirens and they're like, oh my gosh, Stacy. And she's gone. She was gone pretty instantly.
And then like they pan over to that shot of her like in the hospital and they're like working on her and the mom's just like watching it.
Yeah, and there was a scene getting her into the ambulance where she's like twitching. Pretty good. That was pretty good.
Okay, yes. The twitch was very realistic and I really was like, that's selling it. But then the hospital scene ruined it because she just had like a tiny trail of blood, like very small. And then she's just like, like just so horrible. And when they're working on you like that, like I don't think your family can watch like through like glass windows. Like I don't think it's so. Like that surgery like back in the day where people could like watch it. Like it was just very weird.
It was very weird.
Mm-hmm. Not realistic. But okay, so she's donezo and
can we just talk really quick about how Angie washes the knife without soap?
I just was gonna bring that up. Yes. She's just like, oh, no soap. None. Straight water. No, like there's blood all over the knife, blood all over her hands, straight water, no soap, wipes it off on a clean dish towel and puts it back in the drawer.
That's right. That's right. And then can I just say that knife looked pretty dull. Like, it's a pretty beat up, cheap knife.
It's like those knives that like, like everyone had back like in the 80s with like that brown wood handle and like the little like, silver like nails that kept it together at the end. Yep. And like the handle always starts to get loose and like jiggle off, but you don't throw it away. You keep using it and it cuts through like nothing. Yep. That is definitely what she used to kill her. Like the only thing I can think that killed her was maybe the tip. It was like very like pointy, but I'm more concerned about like blood pathogens at this point, STDs. Like there's no cleansing of it. It's just back in the drawer for Stacy's sister. I mean, to use on her cucumber, and just like that is just two blows. Like you're killing essentially two people there. Good job, Ange.
I know it was rough to see, and then of course, like the whole town's like, who could have possibly done this? Like, I like when they're talking about how Stacy might have been the most popular girl in sophomore class. And they're like, so why would anyone want her dead? And it's like, what?
Not the fact that she was mean to everybody and just so awful. But yeah, everyone's like, oh, we love you, Stacy. And I like when Angie's like clearly upset and crying at the funeral, probably because she's just more scared that she's going to get caught. And Libby's like, I know you loved her too. And I was just like, oh, salt in the wound of lies.
Yeah.
That's rough stuff. But
it was rough.
Yeah. So the detectives are starting to question everybody, and they ask her to take a lie detector test, and she fails, but it's not enough evidence to basically accuse her. So, okay. And Monica, meantime, is getting bullied hardcore. Everyone thinks she killed Stacy, which I guess makes sense because she mentions in the movie more than twice, like, I'm going to kill you because Stacy's being awful. But now Monica is getting like things thrown at her, and like Angie's just watching it all. And you can tell she feels bad, but not bad enough to like be honest.
Right. And then they're like, Stacy's dad's like, yeah, Stacy was all American and establishment, so it's probably someone who's against the establishment that killed her.
It's definitely the anarchist Monica who
Right.
did it.
Which is like, you guys live in like a horrible town. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
if Stacy's establishment, then it should be overthrown.
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh.
that was a little bit ridiculous. And then, they're like literally chasing Monica through the school. Like,
Yeah.
she cannot get anything done
Yeah.
because they're straight up harassing her.
So Angie decides then, as like repentance, she's going to just be a really, really, really helpful and good person. Like, she's not going to do the right thing and tell them that she killed her, but she is going to be the best dang candy striper that town ever saw. She is going to, you know, like volunteer, and she ends up, you know, becoming treasurer for the Larks. She was like, maybe we should disassemble because, you know, like Stacy's gone, and Angie's the one that's like, no, we have to stay together. Like we have to, you know, just be a team here. And they're like, oh my gosh, Angie, you're the best. You're going to be treasurer of the Larks. And so she's starting to like move up in her societies, and a popular guy.
She's replacing Stacy.
Yes.
Like, she wanted to be Stacy.
Yes. And now but naturally she is. It's not like she's being mean to people. She's actually like being really nice because she feels bad about what she did. But you're right. She is. She's starting to replace Stacy, and she's becoming very popular. A popular guy asked her out, and
he's real smart too.
He seemed amazing. And I loved, though, I have to bring up again her candy striper job. That was like one of my favorite scenes, when there's clearly someone with like really bad dementia, like having a hard time, this older woman, and she's like unhinged, which, you know, people get very irritable in that state. And the friggin' candy striper boss is like, oh, she's like smiling. She's like, Angie, go check on her. They love you. Who sends like a 15-year-old girl in there to like calm down someone who's freaking out? And she's just like flailing at Angie, and she's pissed off. And I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah, she's like, you're evil. And it's like, oof.
Yeah. The dementia lady, she calls Angie evil. She's like, yeah, evil. And it's like, oh my gosh, she knows.
Yeah, she's like a medium. And then like, I like when Angie's like wearing a Letterman jacket and she's doing like the peer counseling, and the like drug addict students like, are you serious? Like, you only care about being popular.
Wait,
and,
were
like,
they drug addict kids? Like, were they addicted? Is that what she?
Yeah.
Okay. Was her friend in there? Like, truth
No.
time. Like, I was like,
No.
are you there to help, or are you there to
Bill's
visit?
not there. But like, you know, the student she's trying to help is like, you and your friends make everything miserable for everyone. That's why I do drugs, basically.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. That's a good scene.
Yeah, the Letterman jacket's like, whoa, we've really reached the next level
Yeah,
here.
she's not only like dating a popular guy, they're serious about each other.
They're serious. So then it's like, you know, Monica like flunked out of school because everyone's still talking about her.
So Angie's ruined more than one life at this point.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I literally ruined her life. And then Marley Shelton's character, Jamie, is like, I didn't even really like Stacy. I was just scared of her. Then can we talk about like James Avery? Shout out Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince.
I wrote that in my notes. I was like, Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
Like, heck yeah.
Serious role. He's had some serious like law enforcement roles for sure.
I know, and it's terrible, but like I hate that whole typecasting, but I really feel like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air like ruined careers for like almost all of them, because whenever I see James Avery, it was just like Uncle Phil. I can't see anything else. It's just Uncle Phil playing detective. I'm like, you should be the lawyer. What are you doing there? Like, that's not your job. And then
I don't trust him to solve this murder.
Yeah, even Carlton, what's his face? I can't think of his-
Alfonso Ribeiro.
Yeah. He said like that role, like as much as he loved it, it really kind of like ruined his career in a lot of ways, because nobody could see him as anything but Carlton. And I mean,
I can't. So they're like, look, we need a heavy hitter. We're bringing him in. And he's like, look, we know you didn't babysit. And that
like,
was really
"This is a
easy to find
story
out.
all about how you killed that girl with that cucumber knife." Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, he's like, "I know that girl did it, and we just got to figure
Right.
out enough evidence to prove that she did."
Right. He's like, you didn't babysit. All I had to do was ask the family that you babysit for, and they said no, that you didn't.
Right, you
So
weren't there.
We already know that.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. And he's like, look, just tell me if you liked her or not. Like, don't BS me. Just
But why
tell
didn't
me.
they get a search warrant in her house? I mean, like, she failed the lie detector test. Her alibi doesn't match up.
Maybe they don't want to be depressed, so they don't want to go in that house.
I don't know. You know, her mom's got a can of ragu waiting to be opened. Like, I think she would have been like, "Come on in." But I just think that at that point, you'd be searching for evidence.
Yeah, I agree. And then he's like, let me read you this description of who killed her.
Yeah.
It was like basically like a young girl who is like equally, enthralled by Stacy, but is almost like also enraged by Stacy, and like, talking about how Stacy's popularity.
Oh,
Like,
that's right. They
has,
asked like
like-
a psychiatrist, like, who would
Right.
kill her. That's right. Okay. So that's
It's
who
like
they-
a forensic profile.
Yes, they're trying to get into like the mental, like who would do this, like the mental side of it. Okay.
Right.
So,
So
then
then he's
it
like-
was useless. Okay.
He's like, listen, like, go home for the weekend and think about telling us that you killed her.
Have a nice weekend.
Right. And it's like, they know she did it, but they let her go home. So then she goes home, and it's like her dad's like, of course, in his mechanic outfit fixing something.
Of course.
So then she's like hiding in the backseat of a car, and her parents are like, yeah, we're like so worried about her.
Yeah,
like her
something's
life's
wrong.
not working out. And the dad's like, look, she's ashamed of us,
I mean, she is. You're not wrong.
It's like, yeah, this, is definitely part of it. So then they have like a big Christmas party.
Oh, yeah.
And then during that Christmas party, Angie kind of like is like, oh, wow, they're not a bunch of poor losers,
Mm-hmm.
So also the Christmas party, I think, it hit Angie that her family isn't a bunch of like horrible people.
No.
Because her dad's not wearing mechanic clothes. Like he's wearing,
She's like,
he's
wow,
wearing
You're a
holiday
real-
clothes.
Yeah, she's like, you're a real person, Dad. There's
Yeah.
more to you.
So then
Unpeel that layers of the onion.
He's like not holding a wrench, and she's like, oh, you're like my human father, So then it's like, she's like, Mom, can we talk? And like, I'm sorry, but it's like, if you have a teenager and they're ever like, can we talk? I would think you would be like, yes, of course, because like, it's hard to get them to talk.
Yeah, but she hit her like right after like all 5 of her grown children left the house. She just made Christmas dinner. She's cleaning up. She's like exhausted. And I think that was, I mean, yes, I agree with you. I would hope that I would be like, wow, you've seemed really off and now you want to talk. I would be like, yeah, even if you sit here while I clean up, let's talk. But there's another part of me that understands. I mean, this is like her 6th kid. So maybe she's kind of just like, been there, done that. If I fall asleep, we'll talk in the morning. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that because I'm always tired. But also, like, the mom was just saying, like, I'm so worried about her.
Right. That doesn't add up either. Yeah. So
The mom ghosts her.
Yeah. The mom like falls asleep, and there's that like kind of cute moment where the dad covers her. I like how he doesn't clean up, but he just like covers her with a blanket. And he's like, this will wait till the morning.
Yeah, it's like, this is all she
This
needs.
is all yours.
So then in the morning, she like writes a note to the mom, and she's like, I'm late now, Mom. I can't talk, and like leaves.
Oh, right. She hands her mom the note, but it's like a note where like she confesses everything.
Yeah. And then like the mom's like, let me just wash all these dishes and pray for like 3 hours.
Okay.
And then
Yes. So this part is what
this.
threw me. Yeah. Because, okay, maybe because they didn't have text messaging and stuff like that. But if someone nowadays gave me a handwritten note, I would be no, even back then, there's something about that is so intriguing. Like I would be opening up right away. Nothing would stand in my way. Like I'd be like, I'm reading this right now. Like I can't even imagine waiting and pausing and not reading that note immediately.
I'd be like, these prayers can wait because I pray 65 hours a week.
Well, it's just like out of like pure curiosity. Like what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. I couldn't wait. So then she's like freaking out. She's like, Joe, she's like,
Oh,
get out from under the hood of that car and get in here.
Yeah, she's like, Joe, and it's like, yeah, Joseph, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty realistic. Like when you're using your husband's full name, it's like, this is bad.
Yeah, and he, of course, is in the driveway.
And in her note, she's, of course he is, probably getting ran over by Angie. But Angie at the end is like, Mom, like, please don't stop loving me. If you don't stop loving me, like, please meet me after school. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, yeah, she did an awful thing, but it's very heartbreaking I can't even imagine my child admitting to something like that and just being like, don't stop loving me. Like, I mean, there's nothing I don't think that my daughter could do where I'd stop loving her. It was just very sad.
Yeah, it was very, very sad. So then they like go pick her up and she like turns herself in. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, they arrested a lark for the murder.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's only like 6 larks.
Let's do process of elimination, girls. Who's not at gym class today?
Right. And then Jill's like, she's better than all of you put together, except that she murdered Stacy.
Yeah.
So.
What's the big deal, dudes?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, the priest is like, he said something about like, you either belong or you don't.
Well, right. He was trying to make the point of like just the materialism, the pressure. He was putting, in my opinion, his sermon was putting society on trial. Like,
yeah,
when are we going to stop like feeding these lies that we all have to be the best, and then in order to be the best you have to be a certain way? Like, we're the best because we're God's children and this is just what it is, and we need to stop pressuring these kids and saying that if you don't do XYZ then you're not good enough.
Right. And they're like questioning the principal, and the principal's like, there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah. The principal was just like, there ain't nothing wrong with being the best, and there ain't nothing wrong with hitting on a 15-year-old girl. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, his moral compass was straight as an arrow. There wasn't supposed to be a trial because she admitted her guilt and she was a minor. So they were just going to sentence her.
Right. Right. And so they basically, it's like they had a trial basically to like humiliate her.
Yeah.
And like she has a lot of remorse. Like she doesn't think people should be killed.
No,
so,
like it was Stacy's parents that wanted basically to put her on trial. They wanted more justice. I don't know what they were seeking, but it was definitely to humiliate her. I mean, I get it. They lost their child. I don't know how you'd feel in that situation, but if she was 2 years older, she would automatically have a trial, right?
Right. And then, the prosecutor's like just super aggressive. He's also the one like non-white person in the community.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's Mr. Kwan he was in the Joy Luck Club, and I was like the movie The Joy Luck Club, and I was like, he was such a D-bag in that movie, and he plays another one.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
He's the prosecutor.
So basically, it's all like circumstantial evidence, and after much, deliberation, she gets murder in the 2nd degree.
Right. They're trying to make it 1st degree murder and saying that like she, what's that word?
Premeditated.
Premeditated. Yes. She thought of it beforehand, but everybody, like, she's like so remorseful. She didn't think of it. And who's killing someone with a cucumber knife? I mean, really?
That's right. I mean,
you can't put a lot of thought into that one.
No, you're not driving around with that normally.
No.
So then we go back to revisit like the fancy duck pond and the classical music, and like everything's back to normal. You know what I mean? Like no one's going to learn anything from this. Everyone's just going to keep on keeping on. And then her friend Jamie, Marley Shelton, writes to her. She's like, I'm not a liar anymore, and I'm quitting this town, and I'm going back to St. Joe's where we were friends. So she's like straight up just like moving. And then Angie spends like 7 years in prison and then is released on parole.
Yeah. And the real Angie, which I found was really interesting, she was 14?
So the real Angie is Bernadette Prati, or Proti. And she was, let's see, and it was the murder of Kirsten Costas. And that's Stacy's character, who was also 15.
So, I mean, yeah, in that respect, I don't know how they could have given her a trial if it was already like she admitted to it and stuff. That just does seem mean. Like, you're just trying to get, I mean, she's not going to get a ton more time. She was still a minor.
Right.
So what's the point?
Yeah. And there's a book called A Friend to Die For, which this film is based on.
Ooh.
One fun fact is that that group was not called the Larks. They were actually called the Bobolinks, and Bobbies for short. So they were all a bunch of Bobbies running around.
Bobby.
And, you know, again, nobody is going to keep a knife in the car with cut vegetables. So some people thought it was premeditated.
Oh.
Because they were like,
why
who
would
has
you
that
have
in
that
their
there?
car?
Yeah.
But again, you know, they didn't have like Stanley cups with the little trays. So, you know, they couldn't have been prepped all the time. Like sometimes people just, I guess, threw vegetables in the car and cut them in the car. Then there's a 1987 documentary also called Landscape Suicide that covers this. And something I thought was really interesting is because, you know, the evidence was circumstantial except for her confession. And it was murder in the second from the beginning. And then the judge made it a point that this case was just for entertainment. And that was 1984. So if you think about like other cases, like the O.J. Simpson case, which was 10 years later.
Yeah.
It's like maybe this was one of the first cases that was very like sensational, like very entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's why it happened. Maybe this was one of the first where it was like, you know, circus courtroom drama.
Yeah.
And people like tuned in. So I think it's definitely worth a watch. I would say my only criticism of the movie is like, I don't really think I particularly cared about either main character. Like I felt for Angie sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, feel for Stacy, obviously, because I'm not supposed to.
Right.
But it was kind of hard to juggle because it was like, I mean, she definitely like stabbed her to death in cold blood, which is like a big deal.
They didn't really like go into who like Angie was beforehand and just give a little bit of background. Like it was just kind of like really, really quick. I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of rushed in a lot of ways. And so you just don't feel anything for anybody.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I think it had more of an impact on me when I was like 10, you know, when I first saw it. And now I'm just kind of like a little hollow.
Because,
like just,
I mean, the length of the movie is like basically a 48 hours documentary. So when you're watching a movie now, you're expecting way more to it and way more just like background and stuff. So I think that's why there was just some disassociation with like the characters and just not being able to like kind of root for anybody. Right. Because like,
and
the first film that we reviewed, that was like, what, 2 hours?
I think it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
We were also probably really distracted by like the star quality of this film.
That's true.
It really is star studded.
Yeah.
But I think we'll definitely follow up with the 2019 version of Death of a Cheerleader.
Yeah.
And
I just want to make a really quick note because I thought this was really interesting. I was looking up the background of the real Bernadette Perotti, and it's noted that she did say she felt her parents were too old, that they wouldn't listen to her, and that her house was a bit dilapidated. The paint was peeling off. That must be why. Maybe she was painting her own house, and that they put a lot of pressure on her. That put a lot of pressure on her sensitive self-esteem because she never imagined living in such a place. So, you know what? They did their background. I mean, they really did research this, and they did a good job then casting.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna just like tuck in little like treasures.
Yeah,
like,
and
we're
the
gonna
painting,
put her scraping a house in here.
Yeah, I mean that was like a homage to Bernadette, you know, like homage to her. So very good job. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great movie to watch while you're like doing your laundry and just like being like, what the what? The music's fantastic. The outfits are perfect. And I loved the little mini skirt that Tori Spelling wore. I mean, it was great. It was just a wonderful 90s movie. Not something where you're going to get a lot out of it, but good entertainment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was good to watch. I mean, again, it's just like the message is like, be nice. Like, don't be so mean to people.
Yeah, be nice, and then don't get involved in like materialism. Like, I mean, it's just not what makes or breaks you, but I don't know if this world will ever be like that. And there might be more Bernadette Protees. Hopefully, though, they're not using a cucumber knife, and if they are, they wash it off.
Yeah. Like, be nice, or someone might stab you. I don't, just try to be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up, but we will be back again soon, and we will link our email to our posting, and please send us any and all movie recommendations. We would love to hear from you, and thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.